You're listening to Why Complain When You Can Whine? Three professional women making sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. Tonight's episode, we're featuring Comrade Sinque. We hope you enjoy the show. Hello.
Hi.
Oh,
Hey, can y'all hear me well?
yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. I was running behind on some stuff, and I'm here though. I'm here now. I'm here. What's up?
Welcome.
We are glad.
Yeah. I couldn't. I had to be here. I had to.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited that you accepted the invite.
Hey, what's up, you? How you doing?
I am okay. How are you? You know, I have been wanting to talk to you for 2 years now? So
It might have been that. Dang, time is flying. The older you get, the faster it's going. I'm telling you.
Tell me about it. About it.
If I didn't know no better, I would think the time was speeding up. It seems like I just seen some a few days ago, it was like it was 100 and some days left in the year. And I'm like, I'm behind schedule.
Right. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, and I hate to say this, but time does go faster because when you're 10, a year is 1/10 of your life. When you're 40, it's 1/40th of your life. When you're 70, it's 1/70th of your life. So yes, the perception is real. Okay.
Good to go.
Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. Three professional women attempting to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. I'm Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California. Therefore, anything that we discuss on this podcast is purely for entertainment and psychoeducational purposes only. And tonight I am drinking, I picked this special for tonight for our guest. It is called Troublemaker.
Nice.
Oh, I like that.
And you guys will understand why in a minute, but my glass, because football season has started, even though it's only preseason and it doesn't count. So my glass says, whine a little bit, you'll cheer better, with my little Dallas Cowboys star right there.
All right.
So,
Nice. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather, licensed therapist in Colorado, domestic violence survivor, criminal justice, mental health clinician. I'm drinking high noon again because I be working the next day after we record these, so I stopped drinking wine. But that's what I got. It's pineapple flavored and it's delicious.
Love that one's so good.
I've never
Love
had
it.
I had the black cherry one last night. It's also very good.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Page. I'm a domestic violence survivor, single mom, founder of Loving Single and the Hot Mess Society. Tonight, I just got my wine shipment in from my wine club. So tonight we have peach wine. It's like Palisade peach season.
Yum. Yes.
Where I live, we're world famous for peaches. And then I felt like with current events in my life, that I felt like this glass that says toxic because there's a certain man that's calling me toxic right now. I just felt like I wanted to validate him.
Embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah. Radical
And
acceptance.
now, our guest.
I am Comrade Sinque. Nobody ever pronounces my last name right. I got to do a video about that. But basically, my story: did a ton of time in prison, 21 years, 2 months, and 11 days to be exact. Came home, videography, photography, stumbled into social media, and became a prison TikToker. Nearly 1 million followers now. And I talk a lot about my journey during that time. A lot of the stuff I learned, books I've read, becoming pretty popular on Book Talk. I'm popping there right now. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm the guy on TikTok that did the 21 years in prison. We can kind of take it from there. And what am I drinking?
Yes.
What am I drinking? I'm great show, y'all. What am I drinking? I'm drinking Premier Protein in a wine glass because I got to be at the airport at 4:00 in the morning.
Love it.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's like that.
we have to cheers before, oh.
I
gotta
already
cheers.
drank, Jody. I already
That's
ruined
all
it.
right.
It's fine. I
Oh,
broke it first.
okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
But I gotta ask you, my son asked me this actually, and he
Okay.
said, why is he not what is it, verified on TikTok yet?
You know, it's one of, you know, okay, so it took me some time. The social media thing for me, see, because I never took social media into account when I was locked up. Not one time did I ever think of anything social media. So certain things is, you know, my account, it went so big so fast, and I was kind of working on a learning curve. And then some things, it's just, I don't probably take it as serious as some people who have, you know, they've grown up in the digital world. So it's like, I only shot my shot one time at the verification. They denied it, and I've never tried again, which I think I'm getting ready to, because now I done got like enough kind of publication things behind me that I feel like pretty credible things that I don't think I would have a problem next time. But, you know, for me, it was like and to be honest, it was the blue check mark to me never had, you know, it didn't carry a lot of weight for me. You know, but I come up, it's like I wasn't around doing none of this, and I kind of stumble into it. So it's like, hey, I don't like my account. You see me, I don't need a blue check mark, but I get it now as far as the importance. Because when I see a blue check mark, it kind of it has a weight to it.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of understand it more now. But I've only shot my shot one time, and that was about a year ago. And they actually sent me the email to do it. And I did it. Then they denied me. And I was like, okay, I'm cool. So that's what that's about.
Yeah. So I know that you got on TikTok and are telling your story, and it, from everything that I see and I read, and I'm sure I don't read all your comments, so I'm sure you get a lot of really negative comments too, but was the reception to telling your story and getting it out there different than you thought, better than you thought?
It was neutral. And honestly, I have to work to find a bad comment. Like I reached a point where I think it's almost like to dislike me or to hate on me shows you're a hater. Because it's like, you know, I'm not, you know, I'll be humble. I'm just teaching I'm just letting people, you know, kind of inform people about what I know. Everything I talk about myself as far as history, everything checks out. That's why I tell people, like, who people see on social media, that's the guy I've just always been. That's the guy who was locked up. That's why, I mean, I was around thousands and thousands of guys during that 21 years. You've never seen, like, ain't nobody ever fell in a comment or nothing like that kind of question who I'm presenting myself as on social media. It's like, you don't see nobody like, he was like this when he was locked up. It's like, nah, it's like all my history pretty much checks out. So, so I don't get a lot of hate comments. I did early on. The most hateful thing that I ever got was, and it was the first video that took off for me, because I was posting videos about just pretty much anything, because I never seen a value in my kind of the prison story. I never seen that. For a long time, I lied to everybody. Probably the only serious relationship that I had since I've been home, that fell apart because I lied and I never told her that I had done all that time locked up. So I was kind of concealing it. So I did a video where I mentioned that I had done that much time. And in the video, it was kind of cheeky to me because I was in my neighborhood. I'm getting out of my truck and I'm like, the hood welcoming me back after 21 years and not ratting. That's what the text said. And everybody in the comments was like, you dumb AF, you know, they had all these things because I kind of, you know, I was in the streets and I kept it solid with the street code. And it was like all these comments was like I was a clown dude for doing that much time and had an opportunity to get out if I would have told. Oh. And then as time went by, it, you know, it just slowly started to dissipate where if I want to find, like, I have to go find a hateful comment. I have to go find some kind of, you know, spiteful somebody done said. So that's how my account is.
So, you know, I did 13 years as a psychologist in prison, and Heather also has a background in criminal justice.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a licensed therapist, so I've worked kind of everywhere. I've worked as a co-responder with law enforcement. I've worked inside the jail. I haven't worked inside the prison because my own criminal background would not allow me. The state won't let me in. But I've been able to access the jails and do work with inmates in the jails. I've worked as a co-responder with law enforcement. I've worked as a state listed evaluator and treatment provider for sex offenders. And I work right now with criminal justice clients who are on probation, parole, and have like severe mental illness. So I'm sort of like, I've dabbled in a lot of things in criminal justice. So, and a lot of my clients have done a lot of time like you have. And so I'm always like really fascinated to hear their stories. And I've seen your content on TikTok, and I know a lot of it's mostly just related to what you've educated yourself on, the 1,700 plus books that you've read, and all of that. And I think it's super fascinating. And you very, very, like, at least from what I can tell, and I've only started looking at your content recently, it looks like you don't really touch on like why you were in, like a lot of prison talk, they tell prison stories all the time, and they, you know, and so you don't really do that. You kind of talk about other stuff and who you are on the outside, and not exactly like what you went to prison for, all the stuff that happened in prison. I know you've told a couple different stories, but it's not like your whole platform, which I think is fascinating, because they see a lot of people come out after doing that much time being institutionalized, right? And like that they don't necessarily have anything to talk about other than that life. And you seem to have, I know you in one of your videos, you talked about like them calling you Brains, I think was your nickname when you were locked up.
The Brain, yeah.
And the Brain. And like that was your strength, and your, what got you through that was your mind, more so than having like physical like girth and being all buff. So yeah. I just find you really fascinating, because you're just kind of the exception to what we see in like your standard person that gets out of prison. So
you know, now I hate to interrupt you. Go ahead. My bad.
No, I'm done. Go. Keep going.
Yeah. Now, you know that, and that was very strategic, because one of the things I noticed, there's this you can easily find the horror stories of prison, and the BS, the bullshit that comes with administration and staff, and the gang stuff, the violence. It's plenty of places where people can get that. And for me, it was more because, I come out of the difference between me and a lot of other cats talking about it is there's a difference between somebody that goes through 3-4 years in prison. And when you start talking about the facility that I started at, you had to have 45 years or more to get through the door. The low man on the totem pole has 45. I walked through with 60. That ain't turning an eye. That's about average. It's like the dude over there with 280 will make you be like, damn. Or he got life without parole. You see a dude on the walk, and it's like, he's on death row. We going on lockdown. They actually stay killing people there. And I say that to say, prison becomes more of your life, and not just this kind of this journey through, then you go back home. So it's, things were a lot more serious at like the prison I came from. It, and people are living there. It ain't like, oh, I'm here for like 3 years. It's like some cats is, I got one of my best friends is doing 280. It's like, dudes that's where a lot of them ain't gonna make it out of there. So, and it's, to me, I just feel like there's a misconception, because I don't come out of this whole, I don't have to justify my gangster. That's how it's like, everything about me checks out. So I don't have to like, get online and act, this and that, because some people talk about prison and they talk about it in the aggressive sense because it sort of bolsters up who they are. Yeah. Like they was in that environment. For me, it was like, that's kind of like child's play. I don't gotta, but what people ain't hearing is you're not hearing about the humanity in it. See, because that's what people kind of mess up, where people think this, all the things that are innate within human nature, from compassion, kindness, all those type of good qualities, people had this assumption that because you walk through a prison door, that shit drops off. And it's like, nah, hell nah. It's like, you find compassion in prison, you find kindness, not, all those type of things are just a part of human nature, even within gang culture. Because I talk a lot about my gang affiliation and stuff on there too. And it was like, online, that ain't no secret. And even within that culture, it ain't just all, mayhem, and prison ain't like that. It's actually more so extended amounts of boredom interrupted with these moments of extreme chaos. But most of it is like, cats just say, bro, you want to play some cards? Bro, you want to work out? You going to want to work out? You going out to wreck? It ain't all just like going up and cats, getting stomped out and getting stabbed and all that stuff. And I just choose not to talk about. I'm there 21 years. I've seen all that. Like, I've never said this online, but I actually had a friend who was in my cell talking to me, my buddy Manchild. He walks out of the cell and gets stabbed up right outside my cell on some gang stuff. As soon as he walk out my cell, some cats coming down the range stabbed him up. It's like, I see all that. I feel like I don't need to tell that story. They can go other places and find that.
The one thing that was really intriguing to me was, having worked on the other side, I get a lot of people that yell at me that, oh my God, again, you guys are treating them inhumanely. You guys are horrible. You don't care about people. And it's like, okay, first off, we're in California and we're mandated to provide medical, mental, and dental health by a lawsuit. We're under federal conservatorship. And the unfortunate thing, it was brought about by inmates not getting appropriate care, which is fine, but it's called, for mental health, it's called the Coleman Mandate, because the Coleman was who brought the lawsuit. And they come every year, and they more than once a year, but they audit us to make sure we're doing everything in mental health we're supposed to. The bad thing about it is they are lawyers and they want to keep their job. So every year when they come, they find things wrong and they add more stuff. And what happens is, it started to get to where we're not helping the way that we are supposed to and able to, because we're doing paperwork, because we started out with, for example, in 2007, we had a 1-page suicide assessment. By 2020, when I left, we had a 14-page on the computer. So it was about 21 pages off the computer, but 14-page suicide assessment. The rate of suicide stayed very similar and below the population rate. But every time something happened, they'd have to justify, we're not good enough, and keep making changes that amounted to more paperwork and less time with the inmates. So it was a double-edged sword for inmates, because there were times where they're like, why can't you do this? And it's like, Coleman Mandate, that's on you guys. You took that ability away from us. So it works both ways. But to see someone such as you come on TikTok and not, with all due respect, bitch and moan and complain about treatment in prison and how bad it was, and I didn't deserve this, and they were horrible, and I hate people, and I hate life, and just that kind of attitude. I see that a lot. A lot of inmates that have a chip on their shoulder and a grudge about whatever happened. I know in our prison, I really enjoyed working with inmates. They respect you, you respect them, and they will actually kind of protect you without letting you know they're protecting you, because they can't really say that they're protecting you, but they'll say, don't worry, if there's anything goes down, you're good. Yeah. But yeah, the inmates were great. I loved working with inmates. But according to people who only watch movies, it is very, very different, at least in California.
That's the entertainment industry. And that's the only reason, mind you, the only reason I didn't even know, I had no clue that there was even a lane on social media where people was talking about prison. Only reason I started talking about it is because, see, the difference with me is Okay, I walk in at 19. I get locked up at 19. I come home at 40. So I take certain things personal because that's where I grew up at. So when I seen all the misconceptions and people having these assumptions that prison is just full of like rampant homosexuality and just dudes that ain't got no sense and all that, I take it personal because that's the world that I grew up in, talking from 19 to 40. So I just start seeing all the misconceptions people have. And that's what really made me start talking about it the way I did, because it wasn't my initial reasoning for it wasn't to just be talking about prison. It was to start talking about it from an angle that y'all misconceptions is fucked up. Hold on. I've met just as many good-hearted dudes, actually more in prison that I have since I've been home. It's like, and then most serial killers who have gotten locked up, they haven't had an extensive history of going back and forth to prison. It's like they get locked up and then the next, they done killed 30 people. And this is like their first time really locked up for something serious. So I say that to say that there are several people walking around, and just because more people are walking around and are not locked up, don't mean that they upstanding citizens, just like vice versa. Just for people that are in there, that don't mean they bad people. Could have made I ran into a lot of people that very good people that just made some bad choices. That's sad. So that's really, and the question like Heather was talking about, that's why I talk about it the way I do, because my introduction wasn't, I'm getting ready to get in here and start talking about prison. It was, I started seeing all these comments and people was like, on some riffraff, and they really believe these assumptions and stuff they saying in movies. And it's like, I grew up there. This is my world. So y'all got us fucked up. That's kind of how that's how I came at it. That's why I talk about it the way I do.
I have a question about, you said earlier that one of you were like in a relationship at one point and she found out that you had done 21 years and that ended the relationship. We recently did a podcast episode about why you shouldn't date felons. And we talked about some of like the red flags, the signs of the people who are coming out of prison who aren't the exception like you are, like who are more predatory, especially of women, than they realize. And we talked about like how some inmates will be on like dating apps and things, posting from prison, saying they live in a gated community and whatnot, and how they manipulate multiple women to like sending them money and like doing all those things. So what is your take on the men that you have known in general getting out of prison and how they function in relationships with women after they've done a lot of time like you have?
Okay, because this is first, there's 2 points I have to make, because one of them is this: is prison is full of individuals. So the same way that a woman can walk into a bar and it can be the guy over there that will use the hell out of her and beat her up, he's over there. And just like it's the guy over there that's Mr. Nice Guy, that that same kind of concept. Because this is one of the things I try to showcase online. It's not really far removed from life, because it's like people ask me online before, how do you make friends in prison? And it's like the same way that a kid can go to a college 4 states over, and next thing you know, they don't know nobody there. They at the water fountain, somebody, the kind of social butterfly pulls up, hey, what's your name? Where you from? You into this? Next thing you know, you kicking it with them. And next thing you know, 6 months later, you got some friends. Prison works the same way. You go to a new job, you don't know nobody in the building. Next thing you know, you're there for 8, 9 months. You got friends and colleagues and stuff like that. Prison works the same way. But I will say that I think that like I'll tell you one of the struggles that I had. And this really happened to me. This is a real, so I'm in Chicago. I'm in Chicago with this woman. We have a good time. And we go back. She's standing in a hotel by herself. Now, during the course of our hanging out, I didn't see no flickers of like a sexual type of thing. So I kind of checked out on that. Like, that ain't boom. Okay, she ain't on that. Now, I was coming to pick her up in the morning because we were going to Wrigley Field, because she wanted to see that. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We've been clubbing. Now, I know she's in the hotel by herself. I'm across town. I asked her, I'm like, hey, can I stay in the room with you? And she was like, nah, she kind of, and I kind of took it as it was and I left. But now in my mind, I never even thought about how women perceive, certain gestures by guys, because I haven't been, I got locked up at 19. So if a woman invites you up to her hotel at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's sort of like a green light. But in my mind, I was completely oblivious to that. I was just on like I sleep on the floor. It don't matter. I got to come back over here in about 4 or 5 hours to pick you up anyway. That's how my mind was thinking. But then when I got back and I processed it, and I was like, nah, she like, if you haven't been away and out of, off the playing field, she didn't want me to come up here. It wasn't because she didn't think I was cool. It was like, nah, that's kind of a green light. Most guys would process that. Hey, she's trying to get down. So for me, it was like things like that. And another one that was a big struggle for me, and I know it has to be with guys that done an extended amount of time, is just getting comfortable with those gestures of when you with a woman, like the getting close and the arm around, and when you sleep and hold them. That was one of my huge struggles when I came home, was sleeping in the bed, because I slept in the bed by myself for 21 years. So now when it's like a woman is in the bed with me and it's, that snuggle in the arm and my arm is getting tired and falling asleep and all that type of stuff, I'm like, this is uncomfortable as hell. But, it's those like small kind of physical things I had to really, really get used to doing. Because I could be feeling a woman, and I wouldn't be making any like physical gestures. And this is something else that plays an important role, extremely important. So people always talk about child molesters locked up. Now that's true. That's people, they catch hell, rightfully so. Here's the thing. It's sex offenses, period, don't get looked at like the dudes in prison, dudes that got raped, they looked at sideways. Dudes that got any case like that. And because I became hyper sensitive to those things, when I came home, I wouldn't make an advance on it. I wouldn't make an advance and feel like that somewhat today. I won't make a sexual advance on a woman unless I see it like she almost has to like give me a blatant sign. Because in my mind, it's like any other thing outside of that, and you start getting on some rapey stuff. Because I'm in a joint and I'm around, we got this like perspective when it comes to that. And it's like, it made me real a lack of being those spontaneous gestures when it comes to women. Because sometimes a woman don't want to be like asked. It's like kills the vibe. So you got to be able to read it. But working on that, because in my mind, it was like, if I don't see no sign, I'm just not going to do that. Because it's like, you're on some like rapey bullshit.
Yeah.
And those are some of the areas that, I seen, and I know guys have to, struggle with those, because it's just understandable if you've gone away from women, from that relationship thing for, we talking 2 decades, and the prisons that I'm at, dudes is doing about the same time, is you gonna have a problem when it comes to being able, how do you physically interact with a woman when you courting them? Stuff like that.
I know I had a lot of inmates on my caseloads who had multiple girlfriends at the same time. One comes one day during visiting, another comes another day. The other one puts money on their books. I saw it a lot. How did you see that going on a lot?
Yeah, I seen that. I see. It's one of those. It's, you know how certain things people are. It goes to your needs, and you know when you have guys in there, like some dudes look at it as a hustle. That never was my thing. It's like, you hear me. Well, I talk about it online. It ain't no thing, but I was kind of like, I was hustling in the joint. I paid for one of my attorneys selling weed in the joint. So I was kind of, that's how, and then some of my partners, I ended up with a solid core, you know, friend group that they looked out for me when I was locked up. But you know, you had those guys that they don't have the family that's sending them anything. They don't have a solid friend social group that's looking out for them. And they look up and, you know, they start, you know, courting the women and they start hustling that. I used to see that all the time. It was one of those games I can't really, it wasn't my thing. Like, I can't see, to me, it's, I'm not into using people. And there were several guys, most of the guys that I hung out with in prison, same way as I was. You know, it's just like, that was like some lame shit. You know, I can't be sitting telling a woman all these lies and knowing this. You know, to me, you just don't do that. Karma gonna come back around and get you. But I used to see it a lot. But one of the most, but this was the, that's just like I done seen some dudes hustle, and you know, they'd be on like the homosexual stuff in prison because the person that they messing with may have some money. So I would see that, and then you'll go up to the visiting room and you'll see this dude up there, you know, in the visiting room with his baby mama, his girlfriend, whoever. And the whole time I'm sitting over there like, you dead wrong. You know, she don't know about that. And here it is, you in here on some riffraff. I mean, how I see it, no judgment, but not what they doing in the joint is riffraff. You do what you choose. The riffraff is you're messing with somebody and you're not informing them of what you're on over here. That's disrespectful to me. You should let her know it. You know, so it's, you know, I used to see people getting hustled. I mean, I done seen dudes that will court gay men on the streets, and they just court them to get money out of them. It's like they playing the gay role and writing these, you know, dirty letters and all that stuff to them. And it's all about trying to sustain their livelihood while they in there. You know, so
it's kind
I
of
done
their
seen.
survival. So
Yeah.
you were really young, and so you really grew up in prison as an adult man. Like, were you ever in trouble prior to that, or was that the first time? Okay.
Nah. That's like I've mentioned it only in one video actually, but my first time ever, I caught an attempted murder when I was like 15, and I had went to boys' school in Indiana. Boys' school, that's like the prison for kids, and I had went there for like 9 months. I pled out to aggravated assault with a handgun.
Wait, may I ask really quick?
Yep. What's up?
How old are you?
I'm 45.
Okay, do you, the reason I'm asking is because my ex went to that school too, and then they shipped him off to the Dominican Republic. And he was there for 2 years, and I think he was 15 or 16. No, I think he was like 14 when he left, because he got attempted murder for shooting someone in the middle of a drug deal. But I just think that would be really ironic if you knew him.
Yeah, that would be. I'm going to tell you the probably the most disturbing thing when I kind of process all that is when I was in boys' school, which I probably need to actually start talking about that more, because there's some things that I think is a valuable perspective there, is how close it was when I got to adult prison. Like when I was in boys' school, we talking, you know, kids, we 14s, 13s, they in this kind of facility. And when I got to adult prison, how much of the same in regards to how it's ran that it was to prison. It was just like, damn, it's okay. They treating kids, you know, should be a different whole operating process. We're dealing with kids over here. It shouldn't look like a male prison in regards to how they operate and
It
handle
should be
things.
trying to prevent them from doing this again.
Exactly.
That's where rehabilitation really needs to come in, is
Yeah.
in juvenile places, and learning about and mental health and any kind of treatment and housing and all of that stuff. Because I know you said something in one of your most recent videos that I saw that I spoke with my inmates about often. Yes, race is a huge factor, but socioeconomic is humongous. Race, because of socioeconomics, because if you have a shit ton of money, it doesn't matter. And the people that don't have the money, typically it becomes a racial issue as well. But if you have millions of dollars to get the best attorneys to do DNA testing and every kind of testing that you can, you have a better chance of staying out than if you have a public defender, even if you're innocent. I know so many guys that took a plea bargain because they didn't have the money to fight it, even when they were innocent. And it didn't matter what that crime was. They're like, we don't have the money. And so many families run out of money trying to do appeals and things like that. So do you think that socioeconomic issues are big in the justice system?
Big. They are the socioeconomic factor. And when I say this, people are going to step back and be like, oh, it can be made into a sound clip that makes me sound like I'm crazy. But I stand, because it's one of the things, the comrade is there for a reason. I'm coming from the far left. We talk about socialism, communism. That's kind of like my political framework, where the economic factor is more important than the race factor. Here's why I say that. Race is a distraction, and it keeps the lower economic groups pitted against each other, because if you alleviated the race issue, the economic issue, you're still going to have the prison industrial complex, where it is being the poor is being fed to the prison industrial complex. One of the first observations I made when I got there, when I walked through the door, one of my first observations was largely everybody here is from a lower economic environment. If dudes that I was locked up with had $50,000 to spend on a legal defense, I ain't saying that they would be free, but they probably wouldn't be sitting in prison with 80 years. It's a major, major thing. And, that's what prison is full of. Prison is full of poor people, man. And it's from, it's major. It's major. And you can't address the race issue without addressing the economic issue. Those two things are hand in hand. People hear a lot about, Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a dream, the racial equality thing. The one message that has gotten suppressed when it comes to his message is how much he talked about economic equality. When he gets killed, he was going to a workers' march because they was getting ready to strike. It was all about economics, why he was where he was at when he got killed. So that kind of part of his message has been kind of suppressed, and it's just all about race. Now, we got to talk, it's a capitalist system, and we got to talk about the money matters, and the people with the most money have the loudest political voice. They have the better chance. They have the best chances of not falling into the prison industrial complex. They have the best chances of getting the best outcome if they happen to fall into the prison industrial complex. It's bread matters.
Yeah.
Across the board. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the sad thing about it, man, because money matters a lot, and it's a major thing.
Yeah. My dad, I think you've seen my videos. My dad was in prison, and they gave all that they had. They gave their attorney $50,000, and that was gone in a heartbeat. And it was just for the arraignment or whatever. And then it was like, you're done. Good luck. bye-bye. And he got a public defender who I sat down with the public defender with all of them because I was helping. And the first thing was, well, you'll worry about your innocence and all that at an appeal.
Yeah.
And it's
And
like, at an appeal, let's get through the trial. Yeah.
That's good, because I was close to $100 grand. Like
Yeah.
the whole appellant process, all that. And I was just, but I was, I was blessed to be in that position because I've seen a lot of people who had strong issues on appeals. They didn't have the money to get like the right thing. But here's also where it plays a factor. When you get out of prison, like I get out 2 decades, 21 years, 2 months, and 11 days to be exact. I don't have nothing. Like, no, I don't have any clothes. I don't have, only thing I have, I'm going to my mom's house.
They don't give you $200 gate money?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
I got
gone
that.
like as soon as you get out.
Yeah, that's gone. I go to my mom. I don't have transportation. I don't have none of that. Now I come home, I had to do a year house arrest. So I just didn't get out of prison. It's like, even after all that time, it's like you go home for a year. Here was the thing. Immediately when I walked out of prison, I had to pay $15 a day when I stepped out of prison. I have nothing. And they wanted their money. They was like, Polly and Goodfellas, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah.
And it was like, so, and that just tells you if anybody with a sensible mindset would be like, we maybe need to give him a window to find a job, get some transportation before we start accounting for, the $15 a day is adding up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just like, and the stress
And what happens
factor,
if you don't pay it?
they can violate you.
Mm-hmm.
Send you
They
right
can
back.
violate
Yeah.
you. And the stress factor that can cause, for me, it was, it was there, but it wasn't a huge thing, but it was there. But I know people that wasn't getting out to the type of situation that I was, and the burden that can be. And it was even causing me a little stress just knowing it's there. And you start talking about you getting out of prison, you don't know how you don't have a job, you don't have this, and then you got that weighing down on you also. It creates this kind of pressure cooker that, some guys are things strong enough that they may go back to doing drugs just to, ease the pain type stuff.
And they do, like a lot of them do. And that's the thing is, I'm so curious what the difference is between you who started committing crimes and was getting in trouble like really, really young and then goes to prison for 21 years. You came out without a lot of resources. You had a place to go. There were a lot of risk factors that play for you. What were the factors that kind of save you from going back into a lifestyle that would end you back in prison?
It became, and that's pretty easy. There's what I was on when I was in there. See, because that influences how you get out. Because like I got a buddy, man. This dude, man. He just got out 5 months ago. They came and kicked in his mother's door about a week ago, locked his ass up. He in the county. I just sent him some money today. But he came out and he jumped right back in some stuff, but he was on that when he was locked up. So for me, it was, I found my purpose and stuff like that and what I really wanted to do in my life. That's why I used to tell a lot of dudes when they was the younger cats, because I worked in reentry for like 7 years. I was a reentry clerk. And, I used to tell a lot of younger guys that was coming through the reentry class that one of the most important things that you can do while you locked up is try to find your passion and do your self-assessment and find out who you really are and what's your definition of success. Because, there's a teacher that ain't making all the money. She's not the richest person in the world, but she's happy as hell and she's successful by her standards. Everybody's success ain't, you got the biggest car and all this and that. So I try to, and for me, I found that. So I came out of prison with, the street shit seemed corny to me. It got corny. I never forget me and my buddy Naaman. We was sitting, they was running lunch lines. There's a ton of people out, and my buddy Naaman, we used to get out in the streets together. And Naaman looked at me and said, man, we look like clowns.
Mm.
And I looked around and I'm like, we in these fucking, these onesies. And I was just like, it just seemed whack as hell. And even somebody that's getting down in the streets now, for me, it got corny. It was just like, you couldn't figure out nothing better else to do. That's when I knew I had changed the corner. When the streets, because some people, they can know the ramifications of the lifestyle, but it can still be alluring to them. It can still be, glittering. So they can know that it's, shit can go bad, but it still has that allure to it. But when the game started looking corny to me, it was just like, there's a million ways to make way more money than you getting over there, and you couldn't figure some shit out. You ain't as bright as you think. And when I kind of turned that corner, that's where it was just like, for me, when I came home, it was just like, that shit whack as hell. When I see somebody getting money in the streets, I look at them, I probably get your money, salute, but also I'm seeing a 20 behind the lifestyle. It's like Clyde said, it's 2 years of ball and work 20 years in a joint.
I would
Right.
tell, this is what my inmates and I would talk about. There's two reasons why inmates, I'm going to say inmates, change from what they were doing to not doing that anymore. And that's either they die from whatever they're doing, or they're just too old for it.
They
And it
age
doesn't
out.
mean, it's not an
They
age.
age out. I like how you put that. They age out.
And it
Age
doesn't
out.
even mean,
They
aging
age-
out can
They
be,
age out the game, huh? That's real.
and that could be 30 years old, that can be 60 years old, because it's not calendar years. It's, I had guys on my caseload that had been in since 19, and now they're 30, and they're like, I am done. I don't want to do this anymore. And they are working in their jobs, they're going to school, and they're working toward parole, and they haven't had a write-up. They started out the first 5 years with write-up after write-up after write-up to prove themselves. And because they were young, they had to prove themselves. We had a lot of guys that, I'm sure you've probably heard of Pelican Bay.
Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of guys that were up in Pelican Bay, which is like one of the worst places, and then they finally made their way, and they would come to me and they're like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And a lot of them would end up, honestly, on the protective custody yard, because that was their only way that they could get out of doing what they were doing. And even then, that was, they still had to go a few more years of not connecting with anybody or anything.
Yeah. That's actually, I used to ask a lot of dudes that I was down with that I knew had turned the corner. I used to ask them, how long did it take? Because like you said, it varies. Some people, it can be, some dudes can run through the county jail for a brief week and like, I'm done. Then, because I know for myself, and I used to ask a lot of dudes that question, because I can even say honestly for myself, it took 7-8 years. If I would have got out anything short of about 7 years, I probably still had some bullshit in me and would have got back out there and, got back to, that shit. But it does vary from person to person. But here's something that I used to always try to, get people to have a perspective where it can make why they shouldn't engage in that lifestyle. Is I used to always tell people, you have to find your North Star. It's like the North Star, back in the antebellum period American history, that's where the slaves, it's like you follow the North Star, that's how we get to Canada. It's like we follow that damn star, we'll get there, brightest star in the sky. And I used to always tell people that you have to find your North Star. Like, it can be your daughter, it can be your mama, it can be a business goal you have, an idea, whatever it is. So when you starting to, get a little bit lost, or things starting to get a little foggy, or you may start to get a little distracted, you know what it is. Because I used to always use that with dudes that they talk about their kids a lot, they little baby girl and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, she got to be your North Star. That's what got to keep you, focused on the right path. Because my mom's is, I never forget this. I caught a trafficking case. With a CO. I go to lockup. I go to segregation for like 9 months. they gate closed my mama permanently. It took me about 2 years to get on. I did have to do a federal Hague, and they lifted the gate closure on my mom's, but she couldn't step on the grounds of no Department of Corrections. They said she was trespassed, so she couldn't come see me. My mother gets this paperwork. Boom, it's permanent. Now, mind you, December 11th, 1999, I had just got 60 years in October. My mother has 2 kids, me and my brother. I just got 60. When we are in the visiting room, my brother gets killed. My mother had to leave from seeing her baby who just got all this damn time in the visiting room, and she got in the car, left prison, and had to go to the hospital to identify my oldest fucking brother. And so that's like, so I'm my mother's only living son. And here it is. I get wrapped up in this traffic and shit. She get this paperwork and she gonna never fucking see me again, like physically. Then all that shit kind of come, I get my visits back 2 years later, talking to my mother, but she had got diagnosed with an enlarged heart. And I knew that it was the stress that I had put her through. And that's where I learned that lesson that, it just ain't about you, man. The decisions you making affecting the people around you. And that's what I used to always tell dudes, when they down, it's like, man, you may be able to do another bit. Your mama may not have another one in her. You know what I mean? Your child may not, I just seen so many people in there that you hear they moms done passed away while they in there. They can't go to the funeral. Son done got in a car accident and done passed away, can't go to all that type shit. It's like, you got to think about the people around you.
What do you think of, because I know there were a lot of guys that I had that were like, I said, you're going to be in here for a long time. You can have a life. You get up, you go to school, you go to work, you get to mingle with free staff. That's what we called anyone that's not custody. I don't know what they call them there, but you have a lot of interaction. You can't just leave, but you guys have pizza parties. You guys have things. It's not like you're not here for a reason, but you can make your life a life that's okay. And I would have guys that would do that. And then I'd have guys that would tell me it's not okay. If I do that, that means I'm okay with being here. And I'm not. And I'm like, you cannot be okay with being here, but being with that attitude and miserable and hating everybody and getting in fights is gonna make your time longer. You're gonna get time added on. And you're not doing anything to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to interject something just because, I'm not a therapist and I'm not a psychologist, but I have a lot of experience with men who have been in and out of the correctional facility, particularly my daughter's father. So I want to acknowledge, because this is an emotional discussion, and it's interesting for me to be sitting here listening to this, because I want to make it very clear to you what an exception you are and how categorically different you are to a majority of the people that I have known that have been in and out of the system. So you are in your body and you are in your experience, but you are so unique and you are so significantly different. And I know it's kind of emotional for me, and it's probably emotional because I want to take into consideration of a lot of our viewers as well, who are women, who are domestic violence survivors, who have tried to love their partner that goes in and out of the prison and correctionals facility. And they're just hanging on to hope that they're going to come out with your mentality and they're going to come out with your thought process. You're going to go in there and you're going to read all these books, and my man's going to go in there and change, and he comes out and he beats the hell out of her and almost kills her. That was me. And I hung on to hope for 16 years. And I want to acknowledge and applaud you and commend you for the work that you've done and how you actually utilized your time, and you became a better man, and you became a better human being and a better son. And you actually were a mentor and an educator for the men around you. But I don't want to neglect, and this is no disrespect, I don't want to neglect the fact that there are men and women on both ends that go in there with significant mental health problems and personality disorders and something like ASPD and BPD, like my ex has both of them, there's not anything in the world that is going to change the fact that he is who he is, and he's going to continue to be murderous, and he's going to continue to commit these crimes. And he is going, and in my opinion, especially after listening to you, like I wanted to ask you this was, would you say that a majority of the most dangerous people in the world are actually walking free based on economics and things of that nature, whereas a majority of the population in corrections, they're broke, they don't have money, they can't, even if they're innocent, they can't fight, and the people with the money and the power who are committing the most heinous crimes are actually walking free? I know my ex spent one day in a Mexican prison. He made a phone call and he was out, and he committed horrific crimes. And he's actually not spent a day in prison, although he's faced probably a couple hundred years, I would guess by now, but he gets out of it every single time. And he's been in community corrections after he almost killed me, but it was a slap on the wrist. It was like summer camp. And so then I hear men like you, and it's like, it's kind of almost like triggering, not in a bad way, but it's like, damn, like you went through what you went through and you came out on top, and now you're using your story to help others. And then it kind of makes me mad that I'm seeing like men like my ex and like men like Heather's ex. And I talk to hundreds of women every day, every week, who they don't know a man and have never met a man like you in their entire lives.
Okay, so here is a few points. Okay, so the first one is this. This is what I do know, is that you have character, and then you have a person's character, their personality type. And then you have people that go through an experience. See, so I would say it's like when you look at me, there was the only thing that I turned off when it comes to when I came home is I didn't pick up a sack and start hustling and everything that comes with that. But my character, my personality has been the same all the way through. Like, I've never been like a real violent dude. Like, yeah, I caught the case when I was 15. Some cats put a gun on me and told me they was gonna shoot my mama. I shot him. You know, that was kind of that. But I've never been a very violent dude. I've never been like thugging and bugging on no gang stuff. I just was kind of like hustling, you know. So my character, so people that know me before prison and all that, there's always been this right here. You know, but when I know, and I got buddies that's like this. I know the dude said, you know, it's just their personality types is, you know, they flawed, and for whatever reason, whatever trauma they have going through, you know, it ain't going nowhere, and they will probably always, you know, those flaws will always be there, where they may be a person that, you know, is willing to, you know, put their hands on a woman. I've never, like my whole life, I remember I was the laughing stock of school in high school because a babe smacked me, and I used to wear glasses, and my glasses flew across the room, and I didn't touch her. Now, mind you, at the same time, I'm thugging and bugging in the street, shooting at dudes all day. And so I've just always like, and that's just who I am from a character aspect. So I think sometimes when it comes to women, you know, you step back and you just have to assess the character and the personality, because sometimes that stuff is hardwired in. And if it's hardwired in, they may come out of prison a little bit, you know, different perspective, but that wiring is still there. And it's sometimes you just gotta, you know, you gotta cut your ties and take the loss and keep it moving, and not bet on, hey, I hope, because prison ain't one thing it's not doing. I know this for a fact, and it actually goes to your point. It's not dramatically changing people. There's not many cats that are walking in there, you know, and coming out a 180. Like
Unless they want to. Unless they want to. And
unless
that's few and far between.
Exactly. Unless if they want to, you know, it's on and popping if they want to. Like, you know, you got those dudes, but you know, for most, man, it's, you know, Because one thing I tell you, and this is coming from the dude that was in there. When I hear people say like the abolitionist movement and get rid of prisons, I'm a dude that was there, and I'm like, nah, because I'm glad some of them cats is in there and not walking down a dark street when my mama's coming down the street.
Yep.
I've met like evil dudes where it's just like his ass need to be in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've met them dudes, and I'm not somebody that's gonna sit and try to, sugarcoat it like, nah, we need prisons. We need to get a lot of reform and stuff that need to get right when it comes to it. But some cats is, they ain't right, man. They just not. But that character matters, because even like I'm not an exception amongst the guys that I hung with in prison. Because we was all kind of cut from the same cloth, just like you have this squad of dudes over here. We kind of all like the same dude. We ain't, on like that stuff. But a lot of it is reflective of, you can tell a lot about who's gonna come out of prison. Who was the guy from a character standpoint that went in there? Like I walked in prison like the cool, laid back dude that's kind of like, don't be with the drama, kind of social butterfly, smarty type dude. He's the clever dude in the streets. I walked in prison. That only thing I did was that lifestyle. It wasn't like Jay-Z said in his book, Decoded. Jay-Z said the streets is a gamble. He said that this is where people get it messed up. People don't think they have a chip on the table. And the chip on the table is your life, be it to prison or the graveyard. Now with the money and stuff that you chasing, is this a fair bet? In most cases, like hell nah. And when I kind of had that assessment and like the chip at, my life, the chip I had on the table, I'm not a fool. That's a dummy bet. So I'm cool on that. I'm great. Find me something else to do, but I'm still the same guy though. That's the only difference for me now and then is I won't pick up a sack of dope and sell it. And I don't want to be around it.
Do you think, did you see guys, because I've seen this, guys who, child molesters lowest on the totem pole. No one in prison likes them. And then it's crimes against women and rape. But the same guys who will just hate guys that rape will still hit a woman. They don't think anything. That's not the same thing. Domestic violence, beating on a woman, that's not the same as raping them.
I think that's where you start talking about when you start talking about patriarchy and the chauvinistic aspect, that's where that kind of like that kicks into where it's like this area where, it's because to me, it's like, it's all the same. You do anything to one. I used to always tell dudes that it's because one of the things that I started to notice a lot of when I came home, I mean, a lot to where I'm talking to my dudes about it, because it was like the lamest shit to me ever. It was just like cornball shit. Your character is extremely flawed. As I start seeing the proliferation of dudes getting locked up for doing things to women, from killing them to stuff like that. And I'm like, but these dudes is like, they will view women the same way they do guys in the streets, where they like jump on a woman and beat her up in the club like she was a dude. And when I start seeing that, I'm like, this shit is getting like ill, man. But I started to see the proliferation of guys doing shit to women. And like you say, it can be the dude that he's putting his hands on his woman and she's running around with black eyes and all this shit. But then you want to talk about the goddamn dude over here that got a rape case. It's like, nah, you just as fucked. It's one and the same, really. Both of them is horrible. Hell, I don't even know how you can it's damn near the same damn thing. You beat a woman up. But I'm going to tell you something. This has nothing to do with prison. This has all to do with the culture that we are raised in and the lingering chauvinistic, patriarchal ideas that still persist in society. Is you can, like, there's this, how can I put it? there's this, fuck, man. I was getting ready to go. It'll come to me. I done lost it. Something I was really getting ready to get kind of gun-ho about.
Well, we're all gung-ho about the patriarchic, fucked up,
Yeah, because I was saying
misogynistic society.
this is a larger part. It doesn't have anything to do with prison. I was going somewhere to pop up. It will pop up. I know that. But when you start talking about those things, it's not a prison thing. That is a male thing. I've been around those discussions. Look, this is where I was going. This is it. So I'm working in reentry. And I was the guy that was quarterbacking the class. And we talking 40 dudes come through this class every 2 weeks. I'm doing this job for 7 years. I still run into dudes on the street say, hey, you the reentry dude from Miami County, ain't you? I don't even know who they are, but it's like, yeah, what's up? But the one thing that, and I paid attention to this for years because it hit my radar. When during a course, I would have to do a PowerPoint about domestic violence. And the dudes will come in the morning and they will see the PowerPoint. It's already loaded up, beaming on the wall. And then it's like, oh man, we gotta talk about that. It's like dudes would really, it was like something that they did not, some of them felt like they didn't need to hear it, which they probably the main one that needed to hear it. And it was just like this thing that just clicked off. And my read on it was the lack of compassion and care when it came to talking about women. It was like, what are we talking about that for in here? It's reentry class. We great go out. What we talking? And it's just like, and I used to see that. And that is not a prison thing. There is just as many guys that you will walk into a popping ass club and just as many dudes in there that ain't locked up is beating they women up just like prison. It's a fucking American chauvinistic patriarchal problem. It ain't got nothing to do with prison. Nothing at all.
I would agree. Well, and I'm glad that you said that because it actually brought up a question I wanted to ask. Was that because you told the story of with Wrigley Field and that woman in the hotel room, and because you were 19 and then you didn't get out until you were 40 and you were in prison with men, you missed this huge like span of time where men are basically raised up in society to think and consider and treat women a certain way. So there were all of these attributes and like all of these like habits and like things that you weren't taking part of because you were with a bunch of men. And there was your community and your family, and there was like, whatever was, all the things that were taking place there. But so because you were like raised there, it would make sense that you came out and you were like, I don't really know how to navigate specifically with women because you just weren't in that environment.
Yeah. And but here's something. And this is just like coming from, my kind of thing. Is one of the things, man, that I found when I came home. Like I said, I've been kind of like the same. I've been kind of consistent in just my character. Is now I'm typically the too nice guy. It's like, that's what I run into. And it kind of floors me. It's like, it almost like, and I was just talking to my buddy the other day, because I'm like, man, it seemed like the world, I don't know what the hell happened, but there's like this kind of toxicity that, people are kind of drawn to, excited to. I don't know what the hell it is. But then somebody comes and I be like, calm, I ain't with the drama. You ain't gonna see me in the yard yelling. I ain't gonna be calling you all out your name. I don't do none of that. And then it's like, oh, he's too nice. he's too damn nice. And then I'll be sitting back and I'm like, I'm the dude that, okay, I guess I'm nice. I'm nice when it comes to women. But I don't know, man. It's one of those. So what I mean and where I was going with that. So my kind of being absent during that time, I was coming from a genuine, I'd never even had sex on my mind. So that's why I would even, if I would have thought like that's the read on it, I wouldn't even have asked her because I didn't see no signs of that. I just been like, all right, be back in the morning. But when I said that, it was kind of, it showed my naivete. But to her, she wasn't understanding kind of where I was coming from. We talked about it later, but it was, at the time, it was just like, from her read on this, probably like, I didn't show this dude no sign of that. He trying to come into my room at 3. He tripping. And in my mind, it was like, I had checked out on that, but I'm looking at it like a friend. You got a hotel. I got to drive across town. I got to be back in 4 hours. I sleep on the floor in there. I was sleeping in a closet for 21 years. I ain't tripping where I post up at. But that kind of, that naivete, but it's coming. Yeah. So I have to get better at that in regards to like how women read stuff. Because sometimes I just be coming on some straight like friend. I ain't even viewing it from a sexual, none of that. But I buy chick, they think I got an ulterior motive because I just see somebody and it's like they sit next to me at the bar and it's like I buy them a drink and it's like I never even have to talk to you again. It was just like I'm on some party stuff. There you go. I don't. It ain't that. Like you ain't got to talk to me or none of that right now. I ain't never got to see you again.
But I think that I think all three of us could likely relate to that because of like how long we've each been single and then even after abuse. The way that I personally, and I know Heather and I have had this conversation, I know Jody said it, the way that we interact with men is like, I'm not trying nothing with you, friend. I ain't interested. Like, it ain't like that. So like, if I'm just chopping it up with you, we're just talking. I'm not hitting on you. Like, there is that naivety of like, it's cool. I ain't want nothing from you. Like, so I can relate to that because I was single for like almost 8 years before I tried like starting to like actually date and have relationships again. And after that prolonged time, and then after abuse, I was like, I don't even know how to flirt anymore. Like, I don't know how to engage. I'm awkward. So I can relate to that.
Yeah. And another thing, and this goes to just I guess it's just character, man. And sometimes I still be like, now I'm to the point where I may want to just do something out of just kindness for a person. Just do it. Just sometimes just want to do it for no reason. And I kind of fall back because I'm like, it's probably, the read on it and I understand why. And, it's, I don't know, man, dudes be on some bullshit. I know that much. Dudes be on some bullshit and they's on some bullshit in the joint. And I see it all the time. I heard, I understand. I didn't learn until I just learned this. This tell you how oblivious sometimes guys can be to things. This is where communication is important, but also from the guy's standpoint, we got to be caring and concerned about women to sit down and be open ears and really hear what's going on and understand. I did not find out until recently, and I've talked to various women, especially I was on the college campus in Virginia, and this was like fresh on my mind. So I was talking to a lot of women there about it, of how often women leave the house and they are fucking scared, like scared of men. It was just like the woman that you pull up on at 2:00 at the gas station, who you try to shoot your shot, and she like, I got a man, and get in the car. It ain't. She's scared. She's scared of damn men. She's getting out of there because you just don't know what dudes be on. And I really had never even thought about that. I had never even considered that. And I know a lot of guys ain't even thought about that, but women, I mean, men lay the groundwork for a lot of that shit because they be on some bullshit.
I have a quick question, totally separate from this, but it's one that I want to ask you. California has recently passed a law that is allowing rehearing and releasing of unwitting or unknown accomplices, kind of like your case. where they were with someone, a crime was committed, and they got caught up in it. Unbeknownst to them, the crime was going to be committed, or the extent of the crime. For example, I had a guy on my caseload that was sitting in the car. His friend stopped at a gas station, came back, handed him a bag, told him to hold it. Turned out he robbed the gas station. The guy was holding the bag. So when they got pulled over, he got put in prison too. So California is now rehearing and retrying and releasing without rehear or retry cases of accomplices who got murder sentences similar to you because someone happened to get killed when they weren't really the person that was involved. With your case, if you could just say a little bit really quick, if you don't mind my saying, because your case involved, you were in for murder, but you didn't commit murder.
Exactly.
So hearing that California is doing that, how does that, I know what I'm trying to ask, and I'm sorry it's not coming out the right way, but is it something that it's like, yes, that's great? Or is it like, that's great, but damn, that didn't happen to me? Like how?
Now, because I can't look at things like when I was locked up, the state of Michigan overturned their felony murder law. When I was locked up, I actually tried to use some of the arguments that was being made in their case in one of my appeals to get my case overturned. Indiana wasn't going though, but so I can't, I'm not like, it didn't happen for me. It's kind of like, I don't see it like that. It's,
Okay.
oh, well, I did mine and I got, I went and did my time for it, but but I'm glad that people down the road, the future won't have to, because this is where knowledge is important, because a lot of people don't even know that exists. Hell, I didn't find out about it till I was getting charged with it. And then I found myself in a joint with a whole bunch of people that I found like, this ain't like, there's a lot of dudes that done caught cases like this. But it doesn't seem it's not a reasonable, sensible law. You say it to anybody even say it to like everybody that hears about it now when I talk about it, everybody is like, that doesn't even make sense. But that's the law.
Yeah.
And then it creates a whole problem when you get out, because the reason that I started to like just like forget trying to find a job and doing all that, and I'm just gonna have to kind of get it out the mud my damn self, is, on paper, I've been convicted of murder. So normally, and when you do a background check it don't have circumstances. So I normally don't even get an interview, and the jobs that I have had, I've had the opportunity to like preempt it. Like, go in and be like, hey, this is what you're going to see, but here's what it is. I never killed anybody. These were the circumstances. My friend got killed in the midst of a burglary. The homeowner killed him. There's this law called felony murder. Some employers thought I was actually lying about the law, because they was like, that don't even sound real. I shoot them paperwork showing like, yeah, look, it's a real thing. You can actually go to prison for a murder case, and the guy you was with got killed by somebody else. Not the guy you was with killed somebody. Like if you're robbing a store, it's like, nah, but I don't think, it's like a lot of people don't know about it. And it just creates a whole hell of a lot of problems even when you get out, because on paper, I got a murder case. You pull it up and that's all people see. And it's like, soon as they see that, we're definitely not even going to interview dudes to ask them what it was about, when you got a litany of other people that never even had a minor, drug case. It's like, X him out. So, but any state that, moves forward with kind of overturning that, I applaud them, because it needs to, man. So people won't have to go through it in the future. But for me, it's like, I did mine. And I'm a firm believer in this. This is a more philosophical thing. I honestly believe this. I'm proud of who I am today. I'm proud of who I am today. And I know that I wouldn't be who I am today without what I've been through. So I have to step back and say, like, you know, yeah, it was a long time, but it would have took way more than that to break me. Cause really, it was a long time in the joint, but that shit was light work, really. You know, it was knock that shit out. I came home, kept it together. Then I came home in enough time to get to where I'm trying to go in, where I'm trying to go in regards to my happy place. I got enough time on the board to get there. And when I get there, it's just like, you know, it was a part of the story, man. That was a part of the story.
This is a great place to end, but I do want to ask one more question on my end.
What's up?
I talked to a lot of guys, obviously, in my 13 years, and a lot of them were in, they didn't think they should be there, but they did think that they should have been in for a long time before that. But a lot of guys said if they were not in prison, they would be dead. They said actually being in there saved their lives. What do you think about that?
I actually did a video about that not too long ago.
I saw it.
Yeah, it was. There's a high probability. I wouldn't be here. Because people, and the reason that the prison thing was like, when I say it was light work, when I say like long time, all that, but I didn't have a hard prison bit. I mean, you know, when I do videos about, have you ever seen any of my videos where I talk about like the GD lit coordinator and stuff and all that? That's me. I just don't say that blatantly in the video, but it was, you know, I walked through with the gang affiliation, this position. So I kind of had that installation, you know, then I'm just the little cool dude that don't give nobody problems. If you got a problem with him, you probably the problem. Dude, don't fuck with nobody. But when my brother got killed, that started the whole thing. And it was like, it was one of my most hurtful moments, gave me the power to propel through what I was getting ready to experience. Because when my brother got killed, I dealt with that. Anything that I encountered in prison after that, I looked at it as light work. That's just like now, anything that I encounter out here is light work. When I went through a murder trial, got convicted and got 60 years and went and done 21 years in a joint. Anything I got going on out here, this is like child's play. And I kind of keep that in mind, because I think sometimes people don't stay in tune to their personal history. You will have people that are stressed out about a situation they're going through today, and they slayed dozens of dragons that was extremely bigger than that. And they just got to remember those, because it makes what you're going through currently. It's like, nah, I didn't slay bigger dragons than this. I'll make it through this too. You know, and that, you know, it propelled me through. But it is I definitely can say that I probably there's a high probability, man, because I took a lot of L's when I was locked up. It wasn't just my brother. I lost my best friend Steve. He got killed. My best friend Vic, he got killed. My buddy Malcolm, that's rest in peace. He's the most important man that I ever met in my life. Malcolm gets killed. Fat Steve gets killed. Little fella gets killed. Westside gets killed. Chucky gets killed. It's like I can go on and on. I got a notebook full of buddies, and these ain't just like side dudes. I kind of know these was dudes I was rocking with. And I know what I was on when I was out. I wasn't on no, and I'm trying to get this bread and, you know, open this type of company and get away from the streets. Now I was thugging and bugging. I was fully in it. So it's high probability that I wouldn't be here. You know, most of the guys that I was around on a daily basis ain't here. So yeah, I don't know what make you think shit was playing out different for me.
Well, thank you so much. On that note, I think we are at the end. Ashley, anything?
Thank you.
Heather.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Hey, y'all I gotta be at the airport. Y'all should gotta have me back when I could drink me some shots of Maker's Mark.
Oh no, that was gonna be
fun.
after Heather has her piece. I was gonna say we need to have you back, because I'm sure there are gonna be a bunch more questions that we think of that we didn't get the chance, but I'll say that in a minute. Heather, do you have anything?
I really, really appreciate you coming on and
Mhm.
sharing some of your story and just being you
Yeah.
and demonstrating that for the world. So
I
Well,
appreciate that.
I want to piggyback off of Heather. Like, I'm not going to get emotional. These two know I'm a fucking crier. It was a really, I'm very thankful. It was a healing conversation for me personally. And I'm hoping that for our female listeners, it's a healing conversation for them too, because it's really easy for us as women who are survivors, because I'm a CSA survivor, so child sexual assault and domestic violence. So I've only had men hurt me. So like, for us to have this conversation with you, I was super uncomfortable at the beginning of it. I was quiet for the first like 40 minutes. I didn't say a fucking thing until I had to go deal with the other stuff. But it was really healing because a lot of women, you're right, we do leave our house and we're terrified all the time. And so for us to hear your story and how you operate in your life and how you think, and it was really beautiful. So like, I appreciate that.
I appreciate y'all. Hey, and notice too, this is one of the perks. Let me tell you the real perk. Because there's a few things that work for me being gone that long is like, I wasn't, like I'll tell you about the blue check mark. I'm saying all that to say that whenever y'all if y'all ever need somebody to like, hey, social media influencer, maybe they can pump something for us or this and that, holler at me, man. It's like, I don't be one of them cats on like the high horse, like, it's like, nah, I'm all about you climb up, you pull a hand back down. And so hit me up whenever, and whenever this run up, whenever y'all plan on posting this, send me something, let me know, send me some clips. I'll go live, make a few videos about it, and do my part on this end, man, because that's what it's about.
And we will absolutely, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I ain't come up in that. I ain't social media influencer. Hell, it's still kind of me even saying that. So, I'm just here to help tell my story.
And you and I hopefully will keep in touch. And then when you let me know also when you're free to come back and have shots and talk more. And we'll get deep into the nitty gritty because I know I still have lots of questions.
Yeah. Hey, I might hit you up when I get to Vegas. We can do it in Vegas. Vegas, here I come. Comrade's coming to Vegas.
Yeah. Well, you got my number. You got our number. Hit us up.
Yeah.
And we will love to have you back. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Appreciate y'all time. Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Safe flight.
Cheers.